this is the issue. Ayatollah Khamenei, he's in a very he's stuck between between very bad options. So if he continues with the status quo, he could be the last supreme leader of the Islamic Republic, or the one before the last. If he tries to change the situation, there could be such resistance within the regime by people who stand to lose their economic and political interests that they could destabilize this regime. So this is what makes it a very, very particularly sensitive juncture.
Protests in Iran, I talked about earlier in the week, are still raging. It's the biggest round of protests for several years, and as is often the case when things really get difficult for regimes, it's living standards that are fueling the discontent. The protests have spread from the capital in Tehran to the poorer neighbourhoods and to the provincial cities and towns where Iran's economic pain is most acute. Let's speak to Dr. Meir Javedanfar, the Iranian-Israeli lecturer, author and commentator. He's been teaching Iranian politics at Reichman University in Israel and joins me now. Thank you, Dr. Javedanfar.
Thank you. Nice to be with you, Daniel. And thank you for pronouncing my surname so masterfully.
When you're called Finkelstein, you spend quite a lot of time trying to ensure that you master names correctly. The protests don't appear to be slowing down. So can you help us understand how serious this really is? I think everybody who's listened to this programme has heard stories of Iranian protests before, so they're not sure how seriously to take these.
These are the biggest protests to break out in Iran since the 2022 Mahsa Amini protests, which were sparked after an Iranian Kurdish girl was tortured to death because of not wearing her hijab properly. Those were the biggest, but now they have been, and these recent protests have replaced them, at least in the extent and the speed which they have spread. They are now covering 17 out of 31 provinces in Iran, and they are also the cause of the uprising is, of course, the level of inflation brought, which is taxing Iranians to their limit and beyond their limit. Let's not forget that inflation has been described as an invisible tax. Now, just imagine every year that your tax amount, the amount you're being taxed for on average is at least 50%, while your wages are not increasing more than 10%. And this is just brought the people of Iran and the patience to the precipice.
So how much of a threat is it, do you think, to the regime itself, or is it just something that they have to deal with? It's a threat to their policies or their outlook or the economic leadership rather than to the regime itself?
The problem of corruption in Iran, which is one of the major causes of inflation also, is like a cancer that has reached almost all the bodies of the Islamic Republic of Iran. And the leadership knows and is worried that the chemotherapy might kill it. This is what makes these recent protests so dangerous for the Islamic Republic. Ayatollah Khamenei knows very well the extent of the problem. Even Iranian press report on the dissatisfaction of the Iranians. There was recently a survey carried out inside Iran in which 92% of the respondents, this is about 3 months ago, said that they are not satisfied. They are unhappy with the way the country is being managed, with their situation. There's water shortages, there's electricity shortages, pollution is so bad that 2 or 3 times a week, sometimes schools have to be closed. And now the problem of inflation. When you put all of these together, we can reach the conclusion that the Islamic Republic is reaching a critical point in the way it is managing the country and also in the way it is managing the public's perceptions.
Yeah, and it's got this problem, hasn't it, which is the problem the Shah had as well, running up to the Islamic Republic revolution. It doesn't know whether the best way to approach this is by a process of liberalisation and meeting some of the demands of the demonstrators on the liberal side. It's difficult to do that on the economic side, of course, or whether the right answer is repression. And how do you think they're going to resolve this dilemma, which faces all regimes when they get protests of this kind?
First of all, you're absolutely correct. One of the reasons why there was a revolution in 1979 was inflation, which had reached 50%. Ayatollah Khamenei is in a bind. And this is why I believe he believes that the treatment for the current problems could kill the regime, because the treatment to all these problems is, number one, reach a new deal with the United States, and number two, eliminate the problem of corruption. Because if you have this same corruption when you reach a deal with the Americans, sooner or later the people will still be unsatisfied because they're not going to feel the benefits. So this is the issue. Ayatollah Khamenei, he's in a very he's stuck between very bad options. So if he continues with the status quo, he could be the last supreme leader of the Islamic Republic, or the one before the last. If he tries to change the situation, there could be such resistance within the regime by people who stand to lose their economic and political interests that they could destabilize this regime. So this is what makes it a very, very particularly sensitive juncture in the history of the Islamic Republic. Important decisions have been left for so long; they have not been taken, and the decisions options that Ayatollah Khamenei has left for him are very, very difficult.
Well, that was Dr. Meir Javedanfar, the Iranian-Israeli lecturer, author and commentator who's been teaching Iranian politics at Reichman University in Israel and was teaching us all Iranian politics on Times Radio.
There's been protesters killed in Iran. You said we were locked and loaded, ready to go. What is the line there for when the U.S. is going to get involved in those protests?
We'll take a look. We're watching it very closely. If they start killing people like they have in the past, I think they're going to get hit very hard by the United States.
Border without the threat of tariffs. I don't think we'd have a European trade deal.